You think peace is made with ink and witnesses. Rome preferred doors that lock from the outside. Inside, wine spilling on marble, the smell of oil and fear. Generals came wearing armor, speaking in threats. They left with loosened belts and each other's secrets. By morning, armies changed course. Governors switched sides. One man left in a covered cart, and the war ended. Not with a victory parade, but in a bed no one dared talk about. Year of the Four Emperors. The marble heart of Rome beats too fast, and every man with a sword can hear it. Nero is gone, his crown rolling between bloodied hands. Galba wears it now, stiff-backed, hated, clutching the treasury like a miser's cup, while the streets spit his name. Otho watches from the shadows, exiled from Nero's bed, stripped of his province, his pride bleeding under the skin. The Senate pretends to govern. The legions decide who truly does. In taverns thick with smoke, loyalty is poured and traded like cheap Falernian wine. Rumors slide between cups, a gathering behind locked bronze doors, where a single knight could redraw the map of the empire. No marble ledger, no ink on parchment, just silk, oil, and the debts written into skin. Outside, Rome's alleys stink of sweat and ash, but inside that room, history is about to be bought. Otho's smile is the kind that hides a blade, and Rome, drunk on its own decay, walks willingly into the trap. Rome without Nero is a banquet without a host. The guests drink harder. They shout louder. No one watches the door. Galba rules like an accountant, counting coins while provinces catch fire. The legions on the Rhine mutter about betrayal. The ones in Spain curse his name. Every march he orders bleeds the treasury. Every ally he makes is a man he owes. He dismisses the Praetorian Guard's demands for payment, calling them spoiled children. They hear enemy. The city's rumor mills grind harder. Grain shortages, unpaid soldiers, German tribes testing the borders. Senators trade warnings in hallways, but keep their smiles at dinner. A sense of waiting spreads, not for peace, but for someone bold enough to cut the rope. In the shadows of the Palatine, Otho listens. He hears the unrest like a drumbeat, steady, calling him to move. The empire is cracking. All he needs is the right place, to drive in the blade. Power in Rome is never empty. It shifts, like wine in an unsteady cup. While Galba parades in the Forum, real deals are cut in private gardens. Whispers travel under cypress trees. Senators sell loyalty in the same breath they swear oaths. Generals weigh their chances like gamblers, eyes fixed on the dice, not the laws. In the wealthy quarter, a villa rises above the city. White marble, bronze gates. The home of Gaius Marcus, a man with no official title but more influence than half the Senate. His dining hall has seen more history than the Curia. Here wars are decided between the third and fourth cup of wine. Here debt and desire are twins. Otho knows this house. He has crossed its threshold before. This time he does not come for the wine. He comes because inside these walls, under flickering oil lamps, the empire can be bought. And tonight, he intends to be the highest bidder. Gaius Marcus's villa is built for spectacle, not comfort. Bronze doors, tall as two men, open onto mosaic floors that tell stories older than the Republic. Statues of conquered kings line the atrium, their stone eyes fixed on the living, as if judging every move. Servants glide silently. They pour wine into cups before they are half empty. Here, privacy is a lie. Every laugh, every whisper, carried through the marble like a secret desperate to be sold. Tonight, The guest list is carefully drawn. Senators with wavering loyalties, generals with restless legions, merchants whose gold can feed an army or starve it. Otho walks among them as if nothing has been taken from him. He shakes hands, trades pleasantries, counts every nod, every glance. Galba thinks loyalty is bought with gold. Otho knows it is bought with appetite. And this house is a marketplace, where hunger writes the law. In Rome, there are rules everyone pretends not to know. You may speak of politics at the baths, but not in the Senate. You may bribe a general with silver, but the price doubles if his mistress hears of it. And when a feast turns into something else, something behind closed doors, with lamps dimmed and guards posted, the currency is no longer coin, it is flesh. Gaius Marcus learned this from years of hosting those who decide the fate of provinces. Tonight is no different. The musicians play softer as the cups refill faster. The laughter grows louder, masking the sound of quieter deals. Senators lean close to generals. Merchants measure each other's greed. Otho watches it all, not rushing, letting the hunger build. He knows the men here will trade anything to feel untouchable, even if it means tearing the empire in two before the wine runs out. The invitations are never written. They arrive as whispers, carried by servants who know which ears to find. By nightfall, the chosen few slip through side streets, cloaks drawn, leaving their litters at a distance. The villa glows against the dark, each lamp a promise of what waits inside. Otho arrives last, not by accident. He wants them to see him enter, to feel the shift in the air when he does. The guards close the bronze doors, sealing in the night. Servants move like shadows. They offer wine heavy with spice, bread still warm from the oven, figs split open and dripping honey. No one speaks of war, not yet. But the way the generals eye the senators, the way merchants glance at the Praetorian tribunes, every look is a wager. Otho drinks slowly, letting the heat rise in the room. Soon the music will soften, the lights will dim, and the real negotiations will begin, where no scribe can follow. The guest list is a map of Rome's ambitions. Lucius Vitellius, cousin to a man with eyes on the throne, drinks with the ease of someone who thinks the city is already his. General Valens, fresh from the Rhine, carries the smell of cold iron and wet leather into the hall. Two senators whisper in Greek, keeping the servants guessing. Scattered among them, courtesans draped in silk thin as breath, each more dangerous than any soldier here. Otho greets them all with the same measured charm, offering nothing, taking in everything, every laugh, every touch, every careless boast, stored away like coin in a chest. The musicians strike a faster rhythm. The first dance begins, not the kind for the Senate floor, but the kind where hands stray and masks slip. In this room, command is measured not in rank or office, but in how many eyes follow you when you move. Otho does not come empty-handed. His gifts are not the kind that tarnish or fade. To one general, the promise of command over a richer province. To another, whispers of debts quietly erased. For the Praetorian tribunes, there is gold, and the unspoken assurance that under him, their power will double. He moves through the room like a merchant at market, weighing value, measuring hunger. Galba offers austerity. Otho offers indulgence. And in Rome, indulgence wins. A senator laughs too loudly at one of Otho's remarks. Another leans in close, asking when they might speak privately. Deals begin as jokes, sealed with a refill of wine. By the time the lamps burn lower, Otho has planted promises in every corner of the hall. All he needs now is the moment when the music slows and the night changes shape. The shift is subtle. The musicians trade their flutes for strings. The rhythm melts into something slower, heavier. Servants move through the crowd with trays of darker wine, the kind that warms faster, the kind that clouds quicker. Conversations drift from politics to hunting, from hunting to memories, from memories to things that never happened but should have. Curtains are drawn across the side chambers. Laughter spills from behind them. A senator disappears with a courtesan. A general follows 2 steps later. Otho stays in the main hall, letting others vanish. Every absence is a victory. Fewer eyes, looser tongues. He leans against a marble column, watching as alliances dissolve into embraces. In the flicker of oil light, oaths are made without a single word, signed in the touch of a hand or the turn of a key. This is the part of the night where the war begins, though no one will admit it until the bodies are cold. By midnight, the hall breathes differently. The air is thick with wine, sweat, and the faint burn of incense meant to mask both. In a corner, General Valens shares a cup with a senator whose vote could cripple Galba's next decree. Nearby, a Praetorian tribune listens to Otho's low voice. He nods once, then twice, before clasping his arm like a brother. The courtesans weave between them all, their laughter a bridge from one bargain to the next. No one speaks of the emperor, but every deal is made in his shadow. Otho offers no threats, no ultimatums, only visions of what Rome could be, with a steadier hand and a fuller purse. Each promise is left unfinished, the kind that demands a follow-up in daylight. By the time the musicians play their last note, the night's trades are sealed. Not with signatures, not with seals, but with the quiet certainty that Galba's days are numbered. The morning after leaves no trace of the night before, at least not in the villa. Marble floors are scrubbed, wine cups polished, curtains drawn back to let in the cold Roman light. But in the streets, the shift is immediate. A messenger rides hard from the Palatine to the Praetorian barracks, carrying words that will never be written down. Legions stationed beyond the city gates receive sudden orders to stand ready. In the Senate, a speech praising Galba's wisdom is interrupted by whispered news. A Praetorian prefect has changed sides. By noon, 3 governors have pledged their support to Otho, none of them willing to say why. Galba hears fragments of rumor, but dismisses them. He believes his position is unshakable. In truth, the foundations have already cracked, and the man who placed the first fault line was drinking in his hall just hours ago. Galba is not blind, but he is slow. When the first reports of shifting loyalties reach him, he treats them as petty court gossip. He calls the Praetorian Guard to the palace, thinking a stern speech will bind them tighter. Instead, the faces that once looked on him with respect now watch with calculation. He refuses their demand for a donative, calling it bribery. In Rome, refusing payment is worse than insult. It is a declaration of war. Meanwhile, Otho moves openly through the forum, shaking hands, receiving pledges, acting less like a conspirator and more like a man already wearing the crown. Every senator who shares his table gains courage. Every officer who accepts his wine gains purpose. Galba does not see the city turning against him, but he feels the cold draft of isolation. And in that chill, Otho is already preparing the blade, The day of reckoning arrives without warning. Galba rides through the forum in full regalia, flanked by a dwindling escort. The crowd that gathers is silent, not in awe, but in calculation. At the Praetorian camp, Otho greets the guard as if he has always belonged there. Gold changes hands. Promises are spoken low, but heard by all. When the signal comes, the guard turns on their emperor without hesitation. Galba is pulled from his litter, his voice lost in the roar of boots on stone. A sword flashes once, and the man who thought himself untouchable falls to the ground. By the time the dust settles, his head is paraded on a spear through the streets of Rome. Otho does not watch from afar. He walks among the men who killed for him, and they greet him not as a guest, but as their new emperor. Galba's death is not enough to cleanse the streets. Blood pools on the stones of the forum, trampled by the boots of those who once swore to protect him. Merchants close their stalls. Mothers pull their children inside. The Praetorians march in tight formation, carrying their spoils, their faces expressionless. In the palace, Galba's body is laid out for the briefest of rites, then taken away, his name already fading from whispered conversations. Otho ascends the steps where Galba once stood, the air heavy with the scent of iron and smoke. He speaks not of mourning, but of stability, promising to heal the fractures in Rome. Yet in the eyes of those watching, there is no trust, only the restless gleam of men who have tasted how easily an emperor can fall. The crown sits on Otho's head, but it rests on a blade's edge. The coronation is swift, almost perfunctory. In the Curia, senators nod and murmur assent, their voices carefully measured. The Praetorian Guard stands at every door, their presence less ceremonial than cautionary. Otho wears the purple well. He knows how to carry himself like a ruler. Chin high, gaze steady. Gold is distributed to the guard. The donative Galba refused, a payment disguised as gratitude. The streets briefly come alive with celebration, though it is the kind fed by free wine and bread. Behind the cheers lies a tension no festival can drown. Vitellius, commanding legions in Germania, has already been declared emperor by his men. The Senate may dress the moment in pomp, but the truth is simple. Otho's reign begins not with peace, but with a war already on its way to his gates. The victory feast is lavish, but short-lived. Tables sag under the weight of roasted boar, baskets of figs, amphorae of wine. Musicians play, as if the sound itself could ward off the news from the north. Otho sits at the head, smiling for the room, though his mind measures the days before Vitellius's legions arrive. The men around him toast to his health, each one calculating how to preserve his own when the war breaks. In a corner, a senator murmurs that Germania's soldiers march faster than Rome expects. The words pass from ear to ear, draining the sweetness from the wine. By night's end, the hall is quieter, the laughter forced. Otho raises his cup one last time, not to his guests, but to the shadow of the campaign ahead. Those who shared Otho's table that night now hold Rome's fate in their hands. Generals who drank his wine command legions poised between loyalty and betrayal. Senators who whispered their allegiance behind closed doors now weigh it against the rising tide from Germania. The Praetorian Guard, fattened on gold, watch and wait, their loyalty bound only as tightly as the purse strings. Beyond the city, roads hum with the movement of troops, messengers, rumors. Inside the palace, Otho studies maps by lamplight, tracing lines of defense that may not hold. He remembers the villa, the music, the laughter, the night when all this began. Those debts he purchased in flesh are now being called in. But in Rome, payment is rarely made in coin. Rome waits. The city moves as it always has. Markets open, baths steam, dice rattle in taverns. But beneath it all runs a current of unease. Messengers arrive under cover of night, their horses lathered, their news kept from public ears. The Senate debates, as if words can slow an army. In the barracks, soldiers sharpen blades they may soon turn on fellow Romans. Otho walks the palace corridors in silence, feeling the weight of each passing day. Every choice is a gamble. March north to meet Vitellius, or hold the city and wait for him to come. He knows either path will cost blood. In the quiet hours before dawn, he stands at the balcony, staring at the dark horizon, and wonders if this is how Galba felt in his final days. History will say the war came from ambition, from the clash of two men who believed the empire was theirs by right. But those who were in Gaius Marcus's villa know better. They remember the taste of the wine, the heat of the lamps, the bargains sealed with hands and lips. No strategy council, no Senate decree, just a night where power passed from one set of arms to another. The armies moved because their commanders owed favors that could not be repaid in coin. Governors changed allegiance because they feared losing more than provinces. And when Galba's head fell, it was not the sound of politics ending. It was the sound of debts being collected. Rome's fate was not decided on a battlefield. It was bought in a bed. Otho's reign would last only 3 months. Vitellius's legions marched south, and the empire bled again. But the night in Gaius Marcus's villa remained, a secret history carved into the memory of those who survived it. No chronicler would write it. No monument would mark it. Yet it shaped Rome, as surely as any law or battle. The city would forget the speeches, the decrees, the names of half the senators, but it would never escape the truth. Power in Rome was never about marble or steel. It was about who you could hold and what they would give you to stay there. And for one night, Otho held enough to set the empire on fire.